We're really having to redefine the relationships in many ways in families, and that can cause stress as well. So how can families work to buffer the stress that is currently impacting them?
I think it's important to remember that this is an unusual time, and we are going to respond in different ways. And so if we have anxiety or irritability or whatever our response is, it may not be abnormal or pathologic. Just because we have anxiety or we may get angry doesn't necessarily mean that we have a psychiatric problem. We may just be responding. I think it's also important to remember that with our relationships, every relationship that we have usually has some stress associated with it. So in our families, the stressors that were there before are still there, they're just louder. Before we were able to perhaps go about our day and do different things and distract ourselves, but now we're kind of in the same spaces. And so it shows up a little bit more intensely. So I think a few things to remember are really being aware of how stress shows up for you, and being conscious that how stress shows up for you may not be the same as how stress shows up for your family members. As we talked about the toxic stress that can affect our bodies and lead to disease states or interactional difficulties, we also have to remember that relationships can be a buffer to mitigate that stress. So really taking care of those relationships is important. A lot of parents work, and so if we use some of that same language, we talk about debriefs and we talk about huddles. And so if we recommend, if we do those things in our family, doing a family debrief or a family huddle in the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, families, you may have people that may not love to do that. They may not love to talk about feelings. But if you do it in a way that is very safe and easy, such as, what went well today? What didn't go so well? What do I want to improve? We start to open up spaces where people can talk, and you begin to learn about what's going on for your particular family members. We can also use a technique called 5-5-5, where one person is talking for 5 minutes. The family members are listening in a listening space for 5 minutes. And then you might process together, and really keeping in mind that it's not a time to solve problems, but really creating that compassionate space. Because when your family members start to speak, you'll find that you're going to be more open to learning and compassionate in your responses, and these things can build relationships.
Now, if people want to get more information about anything that you've already shared or find further resources on any of this, where should they go to find that information?
A lot of what I've shared, I'm a child psychiatrist, and so if you're interested in learning more about stress and toxic stress in children, you can go to the Center for the Developing Child on Harvard's website, which is developingchild.harvard.edu. CMU Health is where I'm located, and that is located at www.cmuhealth.org. And Michigan, the state of Michigan also has resources on the michigan.gov website for mental health. So I encourage you to check that out. And I trained at Michigan State at the Department of Psychiatry, and they also have resources there. So I want to mention that as well.